Hey, welcome back to another episode of TED Talk Stamps. Today I've got some fun philatelic tidbits to share about Hungary, Argentina, and much more. So stick around. Before I get into the tidbits, I'd like to share a viewer top 10 list. And this list comes courtesy of Bill Wimberly, who sends his top 10 U.S. stamps that are not number 292. For those not familiar, number 292 comes from the 1898 Trans-Mississippi Exposition issue, and it pictures western cattle in a storm. And this stamp is on the top 10 list of probably 90% of U.S. collectors. But Bill says, while it is a beautiful stamp, those cattle and that storm are not even in the USA. They're in Scotland. So with that, here's Bill's top 10. All right, can't argue with that list. Beautiful stamps, all of them. I particularly like that newspaper stamp. And now let's get on to the philatelic tidbits. You're probably familiar with the hyperinflation issues that were put out by Germany in the early 20s. Starting in 1921, inflation started to run away. Even then, what had been a high value of, say, 2 or 3 or 4 marks for a postage stamp issue got up to 5, 10, and even 20 marks. However, in 1922, inflation started to take off. Saw values of 100 marks, 200 marks, up to 500 marks. 1923 is when it just really got crazy, and we saw thousands, hundreds of thousands, million mark stamp denominations, culminating with this stamp of 50 billion marks. Now, as bad as that seems, that pales in comparison to the post-war hyperinflation experienced by Hungary. Inflation just ran rampant from 1945 to 1946, reaching a peak of an inflation rate of 150,000% per day. What does this mean in real numbers? Well, hang on to your slide rules, because this is how it went. The Hungarian currency was the pengő. It fell in value so much, so quickly, that the government created a new currency called the adópengő, which wasn't actually a currency, but just an accounting measure used by the government and commercial banks. And at first, it was pegged 1-to-1 with a pengő. 1 pengő equaled 1 adópengő. And that began in January of 1946. By July 31st, 1946, after just 7 months, the index of pengő to adópengő had risen to, ready for this, 2 times 10 to the 21st pengő to 1 adópengő. That's 2 sextillion. And Magyar Posta printed a stamp with the denomination of 5 million autopenge, which equals 10 to the 28th penge. That is 10 octillion. Put another way, that is 17 more zeros beyond 50 billion. Now, don't you feel better about that measly 6 or 8% inflation we're experiencing today? In the late 1930s, as America was finally seeing the light at the end of the long Great Depression tunnel and starting to feel a little better about life, a new contraption appeared that set off an exciting new trend. This device was the voiceograph recording booth. And for 35 cents, this one here is a later model that cost 50 cents by then. But at first, 35 cents, you could record your voice directly to a 45 RPM vinyl record. There were also custom mailers, so you could send your record to family and friends across the country or across the world. And thus was born voicemail. These recording booths were so popular they started popping up everywhere across the world, in Europe, in South America. And though there were mailing envelopes created specifically for mailing the discs, as far as I know, only one country produced postage stamps specifically for these voiceograph discs, and that was Argentina. In 1939, Argentina produced a set of 3 stamps, each stamp incorporating the disc into the design, and each stamp inscribed Correos Fonopostal. In the Scott catalog, these are Scott numbers 470 to 472. And you can find these for sale in mint condition for about $80 a set, or in used condition for $40. Now, in the description below, I've left 2 links to a couple of YouTube videos. The first one shows musician Neil Young and Jack White on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon showing off what is purported to be the only operating voiceograph recording booth in America. And the second link is to a Neil Young video. In 2014, Neil Young recorded his entire album called A Letter Home inside a voiceograph recording booth. And the second video shows him recording one of his songs. So with one set of stamps from Argentina, you have a complete topical collection of voiceograph records on stamps. Now, one problem peculiar to stamp collectors is that we have stamps from all around the world, from many, many different foreign countries, and inscribed in foreign languages. And it can be tough to figure out how to pronounce the name of certain countries or other words that are on the stamp. For example, do you know how to pronounce the name of this country? How about this one? Well, I'm here to show you the way out. There is a website called Forvo, and it's very easy to find. You just go to www.forvo.com. You type in the word you want to look up, and you will get usually several different choices of actual recorded native speaking voices. Actually, a lot of them aren't even native. But for example, if you're looking up a German word, you'll most likely find a German speaker who has recorded their voice and uploaded it. So take, for example, my name. You can type it into the search box, and look, it even shows up. Select it. Go over and select which language you want to hear. In this case, Polish is the only one. Click the play button, and you will hear
Tyszka.
Yeah, that's it. Remember this stamp? Is that pronounced Aland? Aland? Well, let's check it out. Type in A-L-A-N-D. Since the island is a Swedish-speaking region of Finland, I'll choose Swedish. And let's see how it's pronounced.
Åland.
And just for further demonstration, I have a few more stamps to show you, which Forvo has given me the pronunciation for. Here they come.
Kiribati.
Österreich. Bechuanaland.
Suomi.
Magyar.
Maldives.
Norge.
Saint Helena.
Sverige.
Helvetia.
Poczta Polska.
Martin Mörk.
Czesław Słania.
And with that, we come to the end of another episode of TED Talk Stamps. I want to thank everybody once again for your encouragement and support. All your comments are very heartwarming and uplifting to me. So until next time, this is Ted the Talking Stamp Collector wishing you all happy stamping.